From Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
Welcome into Sports Tonight. Emily Gagnon here, writing solo on Tuesday, October 10th. I barely got any sleep last night. If you're anything like me, that game, that Braves game, I mean, what a way to finish. What a way to even out the series. What a way to gain momentum as the team has to now turn around and go to Philadelphia to face the Phillies on their home turf. But the series 1-1 right now, the NLDS, and it wasn't looking like that at the beginning of the game. The Braves were looking like the team that we saw in Game 1. They came out flat offensively, but towards the end of the game, you know what they did? They relied on what they knew. They went back to the long ball, to the home runs. That's what made them so successful this season, was their ability to be able to hit homers. They had 307 during the regular season. That tied the single season record in the MLB with the 2019 Twins, but they added 2 more in the postseason last night, and it didn't happen, like I said, towards or until the end of the game. The 7th inning, you saw Travis d'Arnaud hit a 2-run bomb, and then the 8th inning, the bottom of that frame, you saw Austin Riley hit another 2-run home run. It was the go-ahead that put the Braves up 5-4, and they were able to keep that lead. And, you know, perhaps you might argue that play by Michael Harris II, there was nothing bigger than that in the game. His defensive play, that grab he made in the top of the 9th, really sealed the game for the Braves. And while I will say fans were very quiet throughout the beginning of the game, and I don't blame them, the Braves, once again, completely flat. They didn't come alive until the 7th inning, really. But once that offense got going, the crowd got going, it got super duper loud. Brian Snitker today said that his grandchildren were scared because, and not in a bad way, just they were like kind of rattled because the ballpark got so incredibly loud, especially in the top of the 9th inning when the Braves, you know, sealed the win to even out the series 1-1. But I do think, you know, the important thing to take away from last night's game, last night's win, is the fact that players now feel like the momentum is on their side. I talked to several of them in the clubhouse after the game, and they feel as if the momentum shifted, and now they're going to a very tough place to play, Citizens Bank Park, but they feel like they are the ones who have the energy and have the oomph, and that they kind of deflated the Phillies. So it will be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow night in Game 3. It'll be a very telling Game 3, but you know, players and even Snit say, you know, it's one of the hardest places to play in all of baseball. So quite frankly, we'll see how they can handle the atmosphere, and we'll see how the Phillies, you know, if they're able to bounce back, or if the momentum truly is what the Braves needed to go ahead and, you know, hey, take a hold of this series. But in just a little bit, I'll have you hear from manager Brian Snitker and AJ Minter, along with Sean Murphy, who spoke earlier today before they got on the plane to Philadelphia. But right now, Braves fans, you should be feeling pretty good after that win. Michael Harris II. One last thought before we move on to the next topic is the fact that he grew up in Atlanta. This is home to him, and you know, he mentions it all the time, and he certainly mentioned it last night. It just felt good. It felt good to be able to do that for his home team, the team he watched growing up play in the playoffs when he was a kid, and now he's actually doing it himself. So there's nothing cooler than that for him, and it was big. You know, after the game, he said he felt like he couldn't even breathe after making that catch. He said he just kind of blacked out, and when you think about that, I mean, that's what it's about, right? That's what dreams are made of, and he's quite literally living out his dream right now. Moving on to the Dogs, who are getting ready for Vanderbilt. There's so many good things to talk about with UGA right now. It's the first time all season after they beat Kentucky over the weekend that I can truly say that they looked like the team that we have come to witness the last couple of years. for the first time, it felt like the offense was clicking, the defense was clicking, complementary football. It really felt like that to me. Players afterwards, during interviews, they were happy, smiling. It felt like a weight had been lifted off their shoulders. It truly, to me, seemed as if they were just waiting to have a win like that, a marquee win against a really good Kentucky team. At times, Kentucky did not look great at Sanford Stadium. In prior weeks, they looked a lot better, and they earned that, number 20 ranking. But quite frankly, their quarterback, Leary, he was overthrowing guys, not very accurate. He did not do his team any favors that night, but the Dogs took advantage of the situation, dropped 50 points on the Cats, and Carson Beck, for anything that I've said about him that wasn't too complimentary, I might have to eat my words eventually, because he's the first quarterback since Aaron Murray in 2013 to have 3 straight games with over 300 passing yards. He completed his first 13 passes before an incompletion. The record at Georgia is 15. He has just looked so good, in the last few weeks, but especially on Saturday night. And you could tell after the game, you could just tell that he as well, was playing with a chip on his shoulder, and perhaps he's going to have to keep that chip, but perhaps it lessened a little. Maybe he feels a little less pressure now for a guy who everybody says is so composed, because he did have such a good game. What I found interesting is, he does very well with the blitz, and Kirby Smart and Carson Beck both said it's because of his baseball background. He was once committed to Alabama. A lot of people don't realize that. In 2020, he was committed to Alabama. He ended up going to Georgia, but he was going to Bama to play for Nick Saban and to play for the Crimson Tide's baseball team. Instead, he changed his mind, which is fine. Now all that's history, but he says that being a pitcher for most of his life, being able to handle those high-pressure situations on the mound, actually are helping him now be a quarterback at UGA and handle these really high-stress situations and be able to just, stay unflustered. I don't even know if that's a word, but he is not easily flustered. We haven't seen him flustered yet, but for the first time, the Dogs did not have to play from behind against an SEC team. This weekend, they faced Vanderbilt. I don't see how that's going to be any kind of issue. The funniest thing, though, I heard during interviews after Saturday's win was players, they were being asked, like, hey, you're bowl eligible. You're 6-0. You're officially bowl eligible. And we all got a good laugh out of that, because it is true. They are bowl eligible, but trust me, they are chasing a lot more than a bowl game, okay? They want to go all the way. They want to three-peat. They want to do it. And right now, they're halfway through the regular season without a loss. On deck, Vanderbilt, but I'm not worried about them. It's at Vanderbilt. Every game I've covered there since, being here in Atlanta, so 7 years, there's been more Dog fans in the stands than there has been Vanderbilt fans. That's like home number 2 for UGA fans. That place will be lit up in red. So it will be a home game for fans, a home away from home. They'll be partying in Nashville, the entire weekend and having a good old time. But I don't think the Dogs have a tough test in Vandy. And they'll be able to rack up more great stats offensively, again, in my opinion, and perhaps on defense, be able to work a little bit more on that, because defensively they haven't looked as good as we thought they would. So this weekend will just be about maybe, improving and looking ahead to a Mizzou has played great this year, looking ahead to Tennessee, looking ahead to Florida, even though coaches and players will say they don't ever do that. Looking ahead is not what they want. The Falcons off to a 3-2 start, guys. Another tough one from Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Sunday. They played the Texans. The main thing here is that Desmond Ridder, he had his best game as a pro. He probably came off of his worst game and then turned it around and played his best game. So if I'm a coach, that's what I'm looking at. He struggled mightily for 2 weeks, and especially in that game in London. And then he was able to pull off a good win, a solid win, against the Texans. CJ Stroud, man, I think that guy's going to be really, really good. Just give him a little bit more time. But as a rookie, he looks like he has a complete handle of that offense over there. He's doing a really, really good job. So I expect the Texans to give that rookie just a little bit of time. I expect them to make a complete turnaround after all that Deshaun Watson stuff, and they've been trying to find their quarterback here for a minute, and I think they did find him in Stroud. But all that to say, Desmond Ridder in the offense, they look good. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, they got involved. They caught passes. That's something that I know fans had been waiting for really the passing game to light up. And that's what Ridder did. They didn't rely solely on the run game against the Texans. Now, they have the Commanders coming here this upcoming weekend, but there's something to be said about playing at the Benz. Ridder hasn't lost there yet. So I don't know if he really just does well while he's playing in his home stadium. But that can't be a bad thing, right? It can't be a bad thing that we're talking about the fact that he hasn't lost at home. That's what fans want to see. But definitely the Commanders this weekend, 1 o'clock kick. We'll see if they can keep it rolling, but they are above 500, which is what fans want. 3-2 start for the Falcons. Georgia Tech, they are on their bye right now. The Yellow Jackets on their bye, but they're coming off of a massive upset. They upset Miami in Miami, the number 17 Canes. If you ask me, yes, Miami should have won that game. I don't know if you saw the end of it, but a player, like the quarterback should have taken a knee, didn't, fumbled the ball. Georgia Tech got it and scored in the last seconds of the game, won it by 3 points. So this is why he was able to get this job. He went from interim to head coach because last season, Tech somehow was able to get a few wins over ranked teams. I don't know what it is that they do during these games that allow their players to get up for these games, but they shocked a few people last year during those games, and they did it yet again. They face a ranked Miami team, take Miami down, and now they enter their bye week with momentum. And perhaps this might be the thing that wakes them up, that lights them up, that brings this team alive. I do think their quarterback, Haynes King, he's played some really good games. He has I don't know how many yards of offense, but that guy, he can really throw. So they don't play this weekend. They have Boston College next weekend. They'll practice a little bit this week, but their guys will definitely get some rest. So I think this is exactly what they needed before they take a little bit of a break, just a few days this weekend where players, will be able to go and enjoy their college lives. But there's nothing better than entering a bye week after a win, especially a win like they had down in Miami. They certainly made Mario Cristobal look very, very bad because that just shouldn't have happened for Miami. But it was to Tech's advantage, right? They're the ones who are benefiting off of the win, off of the mistake that Miami made. So this is good for them. The weight has been lifted off their shoulders a little bit, and they should enjoy this weekend before getting back to it. But they should definitely, I would say, try to keep this momentum because, as we all know, the ACC, SEC, they're hard conferences to play in, and just because you were lucky against a Miami team that made a really silly mistake towards the end of a game and you were able to upset them, it doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way. So definitely a good thing for Tech, but we'll see how they handle it with Boston College coming up next weekend. The thing that's on my mind today is the Diamondbacks. Guys, the Diamondbacks have yet to lose this postseason. Right now, they're up 2-0 on the Dodgers, the team that I thought would meet the Braves in the NLCS. That is my NLCS matchup. But they're literally one win away, the Diamondbacks are, from moving on. And the Dodgers are one loss away from being eliminated. This very well could have been the Braves. We could have been talking about the Braves like this today until they came alive there towards the end of the game last night. But for me, I'm like, wow, I keep saying it, and anybody who watches baseball knows, if you get hot towards the end of the season and you just keep it up, your chances in the playoffs are tremendous. And this is what's happened with Arizona. They got hot towards the end of the year, and they have yet to lose this postseason. They are hot right now. They're on a roll, and they're they're on the brink of eliminating the Dodgers, the second or third best team in baseball this season. So shout out to the Diamondbacks. If I'm the Braves or the Phillies or whoever, I don't want to see the Diamondbacks right now, especially if they eliminate the Dodgers. I do not want to see that team. But for right now, they're really, really fun to watch. It's that time of the year, baseball. It's not, I wouldn't say it's king, because I think football's king at this time of the year, but it's it's like A1 in what did I say, A1? So 1A and 1B. That's what football and baseball is at this time of the year, just because postseason play is so fun to watch. And as promised, I told you we would have some interviews for you from just earlier today. AJ Minter, Sean Murphy, talking about the importance of winning that game 2 as they head out to Philadelphia, because yes, it is one of the toughest places to play in all of baseball. You'll also hear from manager Brian Snicker, who agrees, who recount stories of what they endured last season when they were eliminated by the Phillies in the NLDS.
If we go down 0-2 here at home, have to go to Philly, the odds are stacked against us. And for us to go out there, split the series, and like you said, have the momentum going back to Philly is huge for us. I mean, it's going to be we're going to have to play really good baseball moving forward. We have to clean some stuff up, but we couldn't ask to be in a better situation, and we're feeling confident.
For Michael to only be 22 years old and, his first full season since he was called up late May, I think, last year, how impressed are you with his maturity and his athleticism and his cool under the pressure, like a situation like that?
I mean, I don't want anyone in center field when I'm pitching the ball, that's for sure. I mean, he's a Gold Glover. He solidified that last night, and for him to come up there in that situation, I mean, that, let alone making the catch, but just getting the ball back in the infield super quick. And you got hats off to Austin Riley for backing up the bases and being right there in a good position.
AJ, you work with AJ Smith-Shaw over the winter, and SNIS still hasn't announced the game 3 starter yet. If it is AJ, how do you think he will handle the pressure of playing in his first postseason game in Philly?
If I was in that situation, I don't know how I'd be feeling, but I do know AJ really well, and I can tell you he's probably one of the most athletic persons I've been around, and he really impressed me, because that was really the first time I got to see him throw was during the off season, and he impressed me from the start. So I'm fully confident. I'm sure he'll be in there sooner or later in the game, and I fully expect him to go out there, and he's been killing it the past month, and velocity's up, command's up. So he's going to be a horse on the mound.
What do either of you maybe remember about your first postseason start, and what would be something that you learned from that moment, and maybe advice you would give to someone maybe making their first postseason debut?
Yeah, and my first postseason start was in 2019 in Oakland. I remember it was the loudest stadium I'd ever heard at the time. That was a wild card game. I can remember as being real nervous before it started, but then once the game starts, it just gets in the flow, and you settle in pretty quick. I would just remind them of that and be like, yeah, you're gonna naturally have emotions about this, but once you get on the mound, it's all the same.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be nervous. There's no way getting around it. There's going to be butterflies, but that's what makes you perform better. You feed off the energy in the crowd, and there's nothing wrong with going out there and having some butterflies. So I'll just embrace it, enjoy it, and try to soak it all in.
For Sean, Aaron Nola is a different kind of pitcher than, say, Zach Wheeler, some of their relievers with his high velocity fastball. That they've been able to exploit in the last 2 games. Do you think this is potentially a better matchup going against Nola versus, say, Wheeler in the previous game?
It's just different. He's a different guy, but he's also a very good pitcher and accomplished pitcher. So he's different. So the game plan's a little different, and what we're trying to do. So it's not better or worse. It's just a different guy, and we have to prepare for that and game plan for it.
How much you guys, Nola pitched against you guys 3 times in the regular season this year. How much does that familiarity comes into game planning for this postseason game?
It helps. But they've seen our guys too. When you're playing within the division, you have that familiarity, and you have to take that into account and move forward with it. So it is no advantage or disadvantage because they've seen all our guys too.
AJ, you guys have used the opener to great effect in the 21 World Series a few times. If you were to use that now or at some point during this postseason, do you think that experience, having done it, will help some guys like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going out there, and in the postseason, you're more likely to throw more than an inning. You might have to go out and get 4 or 5 outs, and that's the postseason. Everyone's going to the bullpen a lot sooner now. So we're definitely going to be ready down there. Whether we do use an opener or not, I'm fully confident with the guys down there. They're going to be ready, and we just got to go out there and execute pitches and not worry about. It's not comes down to stuff. It all comes down to location now, and not making a mistake and just sticking to our strengths and not falling to the hitter's strengths and hitter's weaknesses. Just sticking to what we do best.
What does today look like for you guys? Will you go to the ballpark? Will you just take some time off today, watch some film? What does it look like for you guys?
I think just go straight to the hotel and get some rest and be ready to go tomorrow.
AJ, you played in the playoff games really last year, or one of them. The Phillies do pretty well at home in the postseason. What is the atmosphere like? How would you describe it in playoff baseball in Philadelphia?
I told everyone this past offseason that Philly was the loudest stadium I've ever been in, especially last year in the postseason. And I mean, we know Philly fans, we know them pretty well, and they're passionate for their team, and so are we. But it's definitely going to be chaotic, it's going to be loud, and we just have to be ready for it.
What's the funniest thing or most memorable thing you've heard in the bullpen from the fans above you there?
I mean, they'll come at you with anything, your family. But no, I mean, I actually enjoy it. I love, getting heckled, and right there in the bullpen, they're right on top of you. So it kind of, builds your adrenaline up. It gets you excited and gets you going a little bit. So I enjoy it.
Yeah, I was going to kind of go off that when people talk about how loud it is, but can it also, I don't know, do you like playing in those environments? Do you thrive off of it, even if they maybe are cheering against you in those moments?
Yeah, I think there's nothing better, obviously, than pitching at home and having a super loud crowd. But there's nothing better than shutting up a crowd as well on the road. So that's what I enjoy doing is silencing a crowd, and hopefully I get a chance to do it.
Sean, Austin it seemed like he was being a little modest last night. He said he was just in the right place at the right time because he was shouting 1-1-1 and that his momentum in shouting carried him towards that ball. But do you think he showed a little more alertness maybe than he's leading on by being there to back it up, and then also to make that throw with a second to spare?
Yeah, he probably was just being modest. I'm sure he saw the throw coming in and was getting behind it, and he found himself in the right spot. And he's a good player, and those are just his instincts kicking in. There's nothing that tells you got to do that or be there, but it's just a good baseball player making a good play.
Did he kind of show last night how elite he is as a third baseman now on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching him all year, and it's pretty obvious from day one of spring training that he's one of the best out there. And that play last night was pretty special.
Hey, Jim, curious, is there such a thing as momentum from last night carrying over into tomorrow, or is that kind of all gone and dissipated by the time game starts?
I mean, of course, I think, the momentum came back on to our side. But with that being said, I mean, we have to continue to play really good baseball. And I don't think we came out obviously slow the past 2 games, and we can't afford to, keep doing that and relying on coming back in the later innings. So there's definitely some stuff we need to clean up, and on both sides, pitching and hitting, and because this team is not going to give in, and they're at home in Philly. You know, they're going to be excited, and but definitely that was a huge game for us just to, you know, settle back in, and we're just excited to get down there in Philly.
Anything else for AJ or Sean?
And AJ, I'll ask just to ask, but I mean, you guys haven't been told who's starting tomorrow, have you?
We don't know.
Thank you.
I want to bounce one thing off of that. Sean, you worked a lot with Bryce Elder, who had a lot of success, was a big part of what this team did this year. His second half, obviously not what he wanted it to be, but as you've worked with him and now with this opportunity in front of him, what are your thoughts if Bryce is the guy that gets the ball in Game 3 for the Braves?
Total confidence in Bryce. I know what kind of competitor he is and person he is. I know he wants the ball too. So, you know, if Bryce gets his name called, glad to go out there and call a game for him. And, you know, I know he's chomping at the bit to get out there. So I think he's as capable, if not more capable, than anyone else on the staff.
Hi, Snit. Did you decide on a starter yet?
Nope, we're still discussing.
Can you go over kind of what options are, or how you are you leaning towards an opener or a regular starter?
Well, that's the type of things we're looking at, really. So we got, you know, the rest of the morning. When I get done here, we're going to go discuss it more.
What are some of the variables that you and your staff are taking into consideration with determining who will start Game 3?
Just a lot. Lengthwise, who's, you know, we got some options. Guys that, you know, just there's a lot of things. It's like I said, if we want to do an opener, who we're going to follow up with if we decide to do that. If we want to just go the traditional route, or, you know, there's just a lot of different scenarios that we're looking at.
Snit, is it fair to assume that if it wasn't kind of an exceptional environment and the situation, that Smith Shawver might be a easier choice if you're, you know, if he's one of the options?
No, well, I mean, he's obviously one of the guys in the conversation. Yeah, I mean, we weigh all that stuff, you know, in our discussions, because that's, you know, it is a wild scenario there. So, like I say, I think we're leaning one way, but we're just going to try and finalize it here probably in the next hour.
So much has been made about your ability to connect with the players and the special bond you have. And with that said, when you have a pitcher making their playoff debut, do you say anything to them, or just, hey, man, it's go time?
No, I don't think you have to. I mean, I think those situations kind of speak to themselves, and you know what? There's probably nothing I'm going to say that they already haven't thought of, or there's a lot to process. And, you know, if they're making, like I say, a first start in the playoffs. So there's a lot that goes into that anyway. I can tell them all I want, you know, pat them on the back and all that kind of stuff. But then until they toe that rubber and feel that emotion and adrenaline rush and everything, that then, you know, that's when it'll become real for them.
You guys have faced Aaron Nola has pitched against the Braves 3 times this season. Does that familiarity come into play with facing him often, and how what is the key to having success again?
It does. I mean, because we got guys that have had a lot of history with him. I know he was really good the last time he pitched against us. I mean, he's one of the top pitchers in baseball. I mean, how he just the assortment that he has, how he can extend games. You know, we've had a few guys that have done okay off of him. I mean, he's done okay off us too. So, I mean, he's a tough ride because he got so many weapons, and he throws strikes, and you know, he can command his fastball, and you know, so you just got to get in there and fight like we did last night. I mean, it's, you know what, you got 27 outs to make something happen.
So we will have reports from Philadelphia over the next couple of days as the team, you know, has to. When I say the team, I mean the Braves. They have to find a way to be able to win 2 against the Phillies to be able to move on. But if they have to go to a Game 5, it will be back in Atlanta at Truist Park on Saturday. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and I will talk to you tomorrow night.